To announce that the Justice Department has secured felony guilty pleas from the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, Binance.
Actually, it's Binance.
Binance.
Binance. Largest virtual.
Binance.
Binance. And let me be clear. It's Binance.
Binance.
Binance. Council has discussed crypto regulations and legislations at length, and we have come to the conclusion that instead of regulating, we are going to ape a fat bag each into laptop and pump it to over $1,300,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 market cap. Let's fucking go, crackheads.
Everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Crypto Morning Coffee. I got my coffee locked and loaded, ready to go, because we have to talk about the cycle, the bull run ending in 40 days, true or not, and why. And we have to talk about a monster move before that is going to rip to extreme new levels everywhere. Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins, all of that happening and coming true in the next 40 days, which is something that we cannot believe in if we see today's prices and today's price action, but let's see. And we are going to talk about Ethereum and altcoins in the stream as well, so make sure to stay all the way through. So, good morning to each and every one of you. It is Tuesday, and we are looking at Bitcoin going absolutely sideways with a couple of swings, but really an indecision candle that we see here, where the candle closed where it opened, but had swings in both directions of roughly 2% magnitude. And we do see that it's happening at some kind of smaller overhead resistance right now, as we are headed into the last day before the first rate cut during the Trump administration, the first rate cut in this year probably, and the first rate cut in general since a long time, because you know that the last rate cuts, they still happened under the previous administration before the elections. So this is something that is going to influence the markets heavily. But we can already get a little bit of a glimpse where this might be headed, as not every market is that heavily manipulated as Bitcoin. And that we do see in the S&P 500, for example, where we are at a new all-time high right now. This is from yesterday. You know, traditional markets, they close. They are not 24/7 open like Bitcoin and the rest of crypto. So we're sitting here with the S&P 500 at 6,615.29. And that is basically a new all-time high. And we do see that the entire thing since April 25 did a 37% move to the upside on the S&P 500. So not too shabby for traditional markets with a 37% return. Of course, if you are dollar cost averaging into that and you had been buying there before, like since the previous high, it's up 8.6%, right? And the previous high was in February 2025, and then that was the same level as December 24. So that is your average 8-point-something% right there. Maybe it will be a little bit more from that level to that. So in these markets, buying the dip is very, very important. Now, let's talk about what is going to fuel the monster move out of Bitcoin and Ethereum in the next couple of weeks, right? And first, I want to get into global M2, because global M2 has been, for the better part of this year, a very good companion to predict where the price is going next. And global M2 is just sitting at the verge of making a new all-time high, but it did not do it yet. And there is a discussion on whether global M2 is still okay or is completely decorrelated and doesn't matter anymore. And we have been talking about this on this channel already, that we believe that at some point it will decorrelate and not matter anymore, and that is precisely when people identify a top here. And right now I do think that all eyes that are on global M2, they are looking at this pattern here and they're waiting for confirmation that there is another breakout coming. And why is this so important? Because global M2 is basically the money in circulation, and the money in circulation is the fire that is fueling our rally, right? And we do see here, for example, on the left, that the longer the time frames are, the higher the correlation is. And we do see the highest correlation is even on a 2-year scale. So we do have on a 60-day a minus 51% correlation, which is the offset that we have here. And funnily enough, the offset between Bitcoin and global M2 is somewhat also reflected in the offset between Bitcoin and gold, where gold also rallied, right? And Bitcoin did not follow. We discussed this in other streams. Not going to discuss it here today. So currently M2 is not correlated, as Colin Talks here says. He has really nice M2 charts. Very important factor, he says, we know that as Bitcoin neared all 3 past cycle tops, Bitcoin broke correlation with global M2, and that is another possibility of what's happening now. To back this up, I do think we could be closing in on a potential BTC cycle top in about 3 months from now, and so on. The truth is, I've noticed several influencers on social media manipulatively or ignorantly displaying smaller time frame global M2 charts with sneaky y-axis scaling that makes Bitcoin look more correlated than it actually is when zoomed out. I do think that in many cases this is a bias where you try to fit it because you don't want it to depeg, right? But the reality, here we have an offset of 80 days, right? The reality is, with an offset of 80 days, Bitcoin used to follow this, and it was very convenient for many YouTubers and other social media crypto guys to always display this, and of course you don't want this to stop. Okay, so I say the truth is the truth here, right? And the model works until it doesn't. Now, for me, if that breaks out, there's more fire added to the fire, right? But we are coming to what's really happening in a second. I do think that the moment this breaks and people see this, Bitcoin will take off completely, because then they say, okay, this is still valid, we can go. If this forms a double top here, people will anticipate a top and they will sell off already here, adding to more decorrelation. Now, we have talked a little bit in my last video was that, and also in one of my streams, that currently, because of the high yields, money is sitting in money market funds for short-term yield farming on high interest rates, right? And that is true. And the moment that the rate cut comes in tomorrow, this yield that people are farming on if people, institutions, rich individuals, whatever, are farming on 7.3 trillion in the MMFs, that money is going to be added somewhere else. Not everything, but a little bit, right? The moment that the yield goes down, you go somewhere else, right? It's like staking. You get some APY, and then you are like, okay, APY is 15%, really nice. But then the APY goes down to like 3%, and you're like, okay, unstake and move away, right? In my opinion, that's what's going to happen on the rate cut tomorrow. And let's watch the latest updated version here before we go into the rate cut tomorrow. And we will have another stream before that probably, but we do see it's literally only 4% for a double cut. And I think a single cut is even better signal because it shows more like control. 50 basis point cut would be something's broken, we need to fix it, right? So, I mean, we all know that many things are broken and need to be fixed, but that's not the point here, right? So, and that is the rocket fuel that is being added to the fire, because now it's not only monetary expansion and the stealth QE that is going on and so on, but rather bringing down the interest rate and potentially bringing it down once more on the 29th of October, where we, if we look at that, do see that there is the highest likelihood on another rate cut, 22% on then staying the same if we cut in September, and then 3.1% on a 50 BPS in October, right? Either or, right? 50 now and 25 here, or 25 here and 50 in October. With that anticipation, and then we have a last one in December where people think that we're going to stay in that range. Actually, no, there's another 25 BPS forecasted. So 25, 25, 25, or a 50 in some of these, right? With that anticipation, basically the market assumes that the rates are going to drop 3 times by 25 basis points, and that would mean those yields that we talked about go down. First effect. Secondly, the interest rate on credit loans, on other credit card loans, car loans, everything else goes down, making it possible for many people to refinance and get some air to breathe. Because many people are being wrecked by debt, especially in the US, but not only there, all across the world. Only that in the US the interest rate is way higher than, for example, in the European Union, where it's only 2.15% or something like that. And that would mean they can refinance the debt, lower the interest rate payments, more room to breathe, and they can resume spending, right? And this is why this is rocket fuel. And the market is, because of that, right, October and December, the market is already pricing that in right now, that this is going to happen, right? Once it's kicked off with cutting, it usually doesn't stop. Usually when you cut, you're in stairs going lower, right? Usually you have one plateau phase, which we do have, but who knows, right? That could be something else. But across this, like if we go across the years, we do see, okay, very, very likely in the next year at March or so, we are already at only 300 or something like that, coming a full 100 basis points down until March, which means that you hold or you pause once or twice. Interest rates are going to be important. Inflation is going to be important. So let's see, right, how this develops. Now, before we go to the 40-day time frame and the monster move, continue talking about the monster move, let's quickly welcome the rare hodlers, the only active people in the chat right now here, where Bodo says, GM hoping for a proper alt season, been a long 4 years. We do have Puka Ljotric saying morning PH, morning hodlers, and we have Steve-O the Devo here also. So everyone else, smash up the like button for that. If you want to become a rare hodler, there's one rare hodler tier in this YouTube channel. If you want to support me on a monthly basis, then you can subscribe there for a couple of dollars. Then you get in touch with me on X, where you can get the invite for our Telegram group, where about 30 people are in this group roundabout right now, exchanging their ideas on economy, VV, on the crypto market, on trades that worked out, and so on. So we want this community to grow, obviously, especially right now. We will receive new people once the monster move is happening, right? So what is going to, like the third part for the monster move is the exchange balance for Bitcoin. And we do see that the Bitcoin all exchange reserve is still draining. Still draining at this point. This is September updated. Even though we are at almost all-time highs, there is no Bitcoin reflow into the exchange reserve, signaling that the next move is very, very close, as the rocket fuel into the fire is hitting on supply shock, right? It's hitting on less supply, which means if there's not enough supply, the price needs to be renegotiated to the upside, right? So we do see that. So now let's have Tom Lee here predicting what's going to happen in the next run. By the way, this is like most insane face expression. Only red laser eyes are still missing. But other than that, Tom Lee, here we go.
Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think they could make a monster move in the next 3 months, like huge.
If we were to say Ethereum, Bitcoin, we try to bucket them into risk-averse assets or risk-on type assets.
Yeah.
Is it fair to look at them that way? We used to compare them correlation-wise to the NASDAQ 100. Is that the fair assessment for how these things trade in the coming months?
Yes. Bitcoin is particularly monetary policy liquidity sensitive. Ethereum has elements of being sensitive to liquidity, but it's also part of this AI moving onto the blockchain and Wall Street moving onto the blockchain and that whole stablecoin ChatGPT moment for crypto. So Ethereum, I think, trades almost like 1971 Wall Street, which was the dollar went off the gold standard, a lot of innovation. Ethereum essentially is a growth protocol, and that's why Bitmine is so aggressively acquiring Ethereum.
There we have it. And I think he said it, and that is the most important thing. Bitcoin is extremely monetary policy sensitive, as we have seen before. Yesterday, though, we saw also that there was a cycle where Bitcoin didn't care about monetary policy. So it's really about how high is the rate at a certain point in time. And I wonder what it does with the cycle, right? Because let's assume we do only have 40 days left, which would bring us into somewhere into November, then that's still the beginning of the cutting cycle, right? So I wonder what happens to the Bitcoin and bear market especially while the cutting is happening, right? Still. So is there going to be the bear market, or are we going to see a prolonged cycle because of the monetary policy, right? And also the rate of we did not have AI last time, and the question is, how will AI shape the next 1 or 2 years, right? Not a discussion for right now, but I wonder almost every day how the monetary impact is already right now, because it will probably throw stuff like economic health measured in unemployment out of whack, right? It will probably make some indicators that central banks are basing on useless, because what happens if every company can be more productive with less people due to AI, right? Will it then really debalance indicators such as unemployment rate, right? Maybe, we don't know, but then again, you could say the same about every other innovation that basically made some people and some jobs obsolete, only that this one is probably way more meaningful in its impact. So there we have the Tom Lee. He sees a huge, let's recap that.
Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think they could make a monster move in the next 3 months. Like,
okay, so only that part. By the way, this is even better face expression. I do have to redo my thumbnail after this live stream, guys. You saw it here first. This is pure gold. He can see the ETH 15,000 already, right? Man, and by the way, this second best hair after David Yu. Look at this. He can see it. This guy is not lying. He can see the monster move. Okay, so yeah, in the next 3 months, that is where everything needs to happen, right? Everything, including our profit taking, right? So very likely, at least, right? I mean, we are going to assess, reassess, and so on. At the same time, let's be very clear. At the same time, the indicators that we are looking at are not flashing top, right? The indicators and not one indicator, no indicators flashing top yet, right? But if we have a monster move, for example, on the pi cycle, this, for example, is a monster move, then the 111 DMA is going to be ripped up, and we will see then a cross on that scale, right? So here, this scale ends 9th of September at 111,000, but it will more or less be looking at the same, right? You see, every time we get the monster move, pi cycle indicator gets ripped into the top, right? So we basically, pi cycle indicator only says how overheated are you, and when it crosses, it says you're so overheated that the top is very likely. It happens every time. Here's the top, here's the top, here's the top. Pi cycle indicator called them all, basically, only that then no one gave a shit. And now there are so many indicators. We can do MVRVZ score, for example, right? As another one. Here we do see also MVRVZ score is the Bitcoin price is going nuts, but the MVRVZ score is just sideways accumulating. We do not see yet this overheated explosive move type thing going. And many people claim, hey, it's an institutional bid, no retail hype. Yeah, maybe so. But let's see if retail, when retail has more money next month or feels more confident, if that will still be the same, right? So this is some some of the indicators that can be looked at. There is RSI heat map, for example, right? Of many coins, like which coins are in high and which coins are in low RSI, so which ones are oversold. It's pretty interesting to select coins that have not moved so well yet, right? So something like that we can see here, for example, where is it? Even so Polkadot, for example, we do have in here Zilliqa, Mover, and so on, like a lot of coins in there, which also shows like many altcoins are not even close to overbought or something like that, right? So the altcoin season will very likely come. I mean, Bodo said it in the beginning, hoping for proper alt season, been a long 4 years. And with that, I want to come to first quickly what's going on with the alts before we talk about the end of the cycle. And that is, we did say we want to see this, guys. Like, remember, we did say we want to see this. We would like to see a retest on top of this on the total 2 mega cup and handle breakout. The retest is happening right now. We haven't 100% touched it, but no problem. We did retest on this level. If we keep this up here one more day, maybe come a little bit lower in this market, that would be perfect. And then on the rate decision or so, we go up. Some people even expect a manipulation move, where a lot of longs are stacking now for the move, for the rate cut. But it could be happening that we go red after the rate cut, as market makers are going to try to flush out the stacked longs, leveraged long positions and so on before we move, right? So that is something that I am looking at. Of course, this level is crucial for the retest, but then I think we are going to see a monster move out of altcoins as well. I do believe then it is time for the move, but okay, let's see when it really happens, right? Let's stay rational. Let's put our bias, like, we want to see the bull move, but we want to have the seller glasses on. Like, we are looking for selling, yeah? When can we sell? Where everyone else looks for buying. I mean, if you're a trader, you look for buying, you know. But we want to look like all the people that have bags and so on of altcoins. We're looking for when can we sell, right? When is it time to sell? Now, I saw this today, and this made me basically choose the title for the live stream, which says, hey, we only have 40 days left in the cycle, according to the most common cycle timing. So the bull run ends in 40 days is the bold claim. By the way, guys, we have over 30 people here. Smash up the like button if you enjoyed these morning updates. I mean, like, I could do also other stuff in the morning, right? But coming on here to assess this with you guys, of course I enjoy it, right? But if you could drop a like, I mean, doesn't mean anything to you, doesn't mean a lot to me, that I would really appreciate it. So this is the last call. So the current status is that BTC is around 115,000. We are deeper in the cycle than ever before. 1,029 days since November 21, 2022. Low puts us near to 97% completion of a typical cycle, okay? So, and this is crucial. We are right there. It is until I would say this even gives you the hint until November-ish, right? It shows you that then with a low to top comparison, this is how the cycles look. And what is missing is this last move to the upside, right? And we hope that we get it soon. Whereas here in the cycle, we had this move earlier because the easing was so sharp. You saw it in the live stream yesterday when we had the cutting of the rates. It's like one drop, like almost 2 entire points to the downside, and this is why we exploded so hard in this phase. But I do think that we could form a parabolic move here on those on those cuts that are going on, and maybe drag the cycle into December. Now, Crypto Burp here also says, so the halving to peak timing is laser precise. 2012 to 2013, we spent 366 days, then 526, then 548, and then 514 days. So the last 3 cycles, we did spend between 514 days. This cycle is at 514 days. The last 2 cycles, we did spend at 526 to 548 days, which is a very small window to base yourself on, and it's only a very small sample size of a couple of days. But we are now at, so yesterday We were at day 514, so we are now at 515. And then that would mean that compared to 2017 cycle, technically we only have 11 days left. But then there is the 2020 to 2021 cycle where we have about 30 something days. So if we take the average, we should have not much more than a month left here in this, right? Yeah, so less than 40 days actually. But falls into historical 518 to 580 day peak zone. So where's the sweet spot, right? And we do see that we have we have the peak window basically opening in October 19th based on that, and we do have the peak window closing in November 20. So somewhere between October 20 and November 20, it should be the highest chance for a peak, right? So that would give us 33 days until October 19th, and that would give us 66 days, so a little more than 2 months if it goes into November. And I would say, based on all the previous performance and so on, November's good chance that November is actually the peak, right? So then we do have probability peak dates, right? October 20, 27, and 29, which are the highest average return days in a week, right? Yeah, and then we also see certain indicators like in NUPL, net unrealized profit and loss, right? That still has some room for us here. Yeah? So we do see that we are not in euphoria, and we do see that the MVRVZ score, we looked at it before, right? Here on the on CoinGlass, that has still room to run. The mining cost ratio is still at a sustainable level. So the question is, yeah, final push to where? How hard? How insane will it be? How will altcoins behave in those, I would say, 60 days or so that are coming in, right? According to 500-day rule, we are already over it, right? 500-day rule was here, 2nd of September, basically here. That would have been the 500-day rule date from halving. So yeah, all in all, I would say that it's a very good bias to have to say, hey, we do have 40 days at the maximum here, and then we'll see, right? I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a little bit more, but that would bring us here to 26th of October, right? Which was, I think, one of the dates, but okay. And it will, 26th of October actually, maybe not, because 29th of October is the second rate cut, right? Let's not forget that. Maybe that is going to fuel it once more. But yeah, there and thereabout. It's going to be interesting, really, really interesting. I'm looking forward to see that. And obviously, I want to be ready to be able to take profits, okay? That is necessary. That means wherever you go, you should have your access to your coins and so on to be able to press the sell button to take profit, right? Preparation is key. Have your passwords. Have your also, you know that you need to move money onto exchanges, for example, right? Crypto onto the exchange. Once it happens, you know that when exuberant pumps are happening, that exchanges are extremely weak. The websites go down. People can't press the sell button. So that all will happen, and it will scare, because you, especially if there is a certain coin that just did the 10x and you're like, what the heck, I'm rich, right? You need to be ready to lock in your profits, right? Yeah, please smash the like button, folks. Ronald says Lee's facial expression is really funny. Yeah, absolutely. Awesomeness redefined. Thank you, Diviner Singh. Björn says the 100x ETH. Yeah, exactly. 100x ETH. I mean, what the heck? Some people are sitting on a shitload of ETH. But yeah, also ETH. Talking about this. By the way, we're talking like bullishly, but look at the market on today. It's the this is the retest in the total 2 that's happening right now. Yeah, we see it everywhere. Some things like Aero, IMX, Pump, Mix. Still, I think it's highly manipulated scam. Yeah, all of that will turn into green very, very soon again. But right now we have to sustain the last, let's say, 36 hours or so until the rate cut. Ethereum has just had the best quarter in history, quarter 3. All right, the best quarter 3 in history. Never in the history before has Ethereum put 86% or more in Q3. And we see that it's already followed. I mean, Q1 was really, really bad, right? Q1 was almost the worst Q1 that Ethereum ever had, besides the bear market year after 2017 cycle. So really extreme to have this performance in a bull run. So of course it had some catching up to do. And we do see that Q4 for Ethereum on average is a 20% return year. But we also do see that Ethereum never had 3 Q4s back to back in the green. We had massive green, good green, and then minus 10% here in the end of the 2022 cycle. And then here we, in the bull run year, 150% Ethereum, but then in the subsequent year, already bear market, right? And so these averages, I would even argue the sample size is very small, right? So yeah, we will see how Ethereum will perform, but Ethereum should have a pump. The only question is, will the return be positive or negative in the end? If, for example, in December we get a 50% correction, right? That we don't know, right? We don't know. But also we could, yeah, I mean, there's a first time for everything. I mean, here also, right? We never had it until we had it, or here everything's green and then suddenly red, right? This is where patterns are not patterns. It's just pure speculation, right? But from everything that we have fundamentally discussed in the beginning, with the fire, which is M2, and the rocket fuel, that is the rate cut, and the scarcity, which is the exchange rates for both, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, we should be headed into pretty good pumps. Yeah. Okay, just quickly, because I have it still on the thumbnail. MK still not breaking out. Like here, it's looking at some altcoins, right? MK still facing some overhead resistance here. We are waiting for MK to break out. Here's a bull cross forming on the weekly. I do think the moment that we are breaking on total 2. Retesting on total 2, we did break. Where is my total 2? There. The moment that the retest is complete on total 2, I think we will start to see big moves, especially out of big caps, which is, according to the money flow, the thing. We will see very likely have $1 trillion added to the broader crypto market without Bitcoin. And we will see probably the total 3 breaking out. Yeah, which we do have a rejection here on the total 3 instead of a retest. So the total 3 did not break out yet. And we do have the others probably having a pause here, not much, but yeah, the others has to close an immense gap to even complete this pattern, right? So others is dragging behind. And Bitcoin this is also something, Bitcoin can top out in November, but still altcoins can fly more, because we will not know if Bitcoin did top out or not until weeks after. So in this time, still other currencies will fly, right? So it's not that clear, crystal clear. I mean, for example, Bitcoin, right? This could have been just without only from a pattern, right? But this could obviously be the top, right? This could be the top, but we would not know. I mean, from indicator perspective, this is not the top, but this could be the top, right? Because you could have something like this, right? A head and shoulder. We would dip here. Everyone would be like, oh, negative, and then we come up for a shoulder, and then everyone gets bullish again, saying this was only retest by the dip, blah blah. And then we have like this head and shoulders pattern, and then we collapse. And only then we know, okay, this was the top, right? But very likely we are going to fire away here, go to our target of at least 135,000, and maybe then we form the same, right? We don't know. Then we come back, and then this, and then here's our, who knows, right? But there are weeks where we will have sideways. This is a monthly, right? Where we'll have sideways. We don't know if it's the top or not. No one will know, right? People will predict, but no one will really know. But we can have an educated guess based on our indicators if this is the top or not. And I say it's not yet. We still have a little bit of room. It's not much room as we do see here, but we have a little bit of room left for another big pump that goes on for what? Exactly 40 to 60 days, right? So this is... The TSI tells the story about, hey, you have 2 months left, basically, right? Maybe 2 or a little more, yeah? So let's see. Yeah, we had our inverse head and shoulders pattern, and let's just remember that the move out of that should be going here, right? Should be exactly that, right? This is the retest. This is our continuation, and this move should bring us to 133,000 roughly. So also from this measured move out of the inverse head and shoulders that we see here, and by the way, there are people that draw this in like this, okay? I disagree on that massively. But people draw this in like this, where you have this inverse head and shoulders like this. This is only the retest, and then the move comes, right? I do disagree on that because I think this makes more sense. But we will see, right? We will see. In the end, that's like T residues showing you the future. Yeah. But it still somehow works. I mean, this works out perfectly. Sorry, there we go on the logarithmic again. Yeah, it still works out perfectly. We did bounce from the support band. So altcoin wise, okay. So we looked at MK. Nothing new on MK other than it's a little bit green, which is nice. We should come up to this overhead resistance, downward sloping resistance. We might argue we have somewhat like a bigger falling channel here. Falling channels tend to break to the upside if we have something like this here, right? Yeah, we are just in the middle of this channel. I do still think that MK is a good buy because of its super low market cap. It plays the correct fiddle. It has a big community, so that should be fine. We do have. Yeah, by the way, like VeChain, for example, you look at VeChain, nothing, right? And nothing happening, but it looks like the only thing that I would argue is like also here, it looks like you have some downward sloping resistance that once broken, it's like slight compression going in. This is a big fat accumulation in my opinion. I think VeChain will do very well, will explode, will do very well. Big community, still building, posting every day and so on. So VeChain pretty good. There are many things here that did not do that well. And of course, it depends also on, hey, okay, not going to read out the name, but welcome to the as a subscriber. Good morning, Chris Klein. How are you doing? Welcome to the stream. So we do have TIA, for example. I mean, it's 1 billion market cap. It did not do quite that well, right, in this run, but it seems to be bottoming here. But for example, and this is something like, this was one of the most hyped coins in the early stages. It did a 9x or so from the launch, at least on this. I don't know, maybe there's like more chart history that I cannot see. It does seem, for example, that there might be a bottom here, right? But it's one of these coins that probably there's dilution going on without knowing the tokenomics too much here. This could be, actually, let's find out together using AI, because I always like to do 1 or 2 AI examples on how it can help us. Why is Celestia TIA still going down or bottoming? Has there been dilution in the tokenomics? Right? So this is like easy way to find out. And 1 year ago or so, in the last bull run, we had to do some research out of blogs and try to find out on X and on wherever what's going on, right? Now no one has had an easier life on researching a coin than we do with AI, right? So what we know, tokenomic supply unlocks initial inflation emission scale. TIA uses a declining inflation model, initially 8% per year, declining over time, long-term floor around 1.5%. All inflation rewards go to validators and delegators. None goes to the foundry and treasury. That's pretty good. Massive unlocks, but here it is. After its airdrop, 580,000 users and early fundraising, there were large amounts of tokens that were locked, then scheduled to unlock. When these unlocks happen, especially cliffs, big batches unlock at once, they often increase sell pressure because holders or early investors may sell into liquidity. For example, there was an October 2024 cliff unlock that released 176 million tokens, nearly doubling the circulating supply. This triggered strong downward price movement. And then you have a continuity of unlocks, dilution. Ongoing vesting schedules remain hundreds of millions of TIA that are to be unlocked over time through 2027. Also, staking rewards act as kind of ongoing emission and inflation. But there is, as in all altcoin projects, buybacks and changes. Lotus upgrade. In July 2025, the Celestia Foundation bought back 43.4 million TIA from Polychain Capital. They also introduced the Lotus upgrade, which changed some incentive structures, reducing inflation by 33%, locking staking rewards for vesting accounts, rework unlocking schedules. So, basically that is something that happened to many coins, and it shows. You see, I did not know it, but I saw directly on the chart that this must have been like that, that there must have been dilution going on. So how could this be good, right? Could this be good? We don't know, right? So because there's continuous unlocks, they might have not found yet the right recipe. So for Celestia, it's a big question mark. It already has $1 billion, right? In 1.32 billion in market cap. Of course, in a bull run, this will also pump, but it's way easier to, like, if you already want to go into somewhat insecure coin, then why take something like this that already has 1 billion? It needs another billion, another 1.3 billion just to double in price, right? Whereas Metacade, for example, which has a less risky tokenomics profile as it has no unlocks. It has almost no VCs. It has mostly is in circulating supply and so on. Should be able to do way more access than Celestia, right? Rona says, thanks for the amazing alpha, mate. See you tomorrow. Absolutely. That's the plan. Tomorrow is the plan. Divine the Thing says, no, bull run is not going to be over in November. Tom Lee predicted ETH to 60k. Yeah, but what's the time frame on his 60k prediction? Because I highly doubt that Tom Lee predicts ETH to go to 60k in this bull run. I highly doubt that. Quick look at Ecomi, and this looks exactly as we wanted, right? Not super exactly, but this looks way better than many things that we saw on Ecomi, because you can basically say that there's some bull flag stuff going on, right? We did actually find support on this 0.029. We do have put in on the daily a lower high here, which is okay-ish, but it seems that there is some buying going on, right? Buyers are coming in on this level, and that is something that we did not see since a long time, that we actually form a structure like this, right? So let's see if, of course, we would like to have OMI go up and put in a new high, so that we did say this last time, right? Or the last times, we would like to see something like this, right? So that we can actually say, okay, yes, we do have a trend reversal here, which is not the case just yet, right? Because like many times before, we do see that here we do have a pump, and then we have something like this, and then we lost the price again, right? Where you don't have a trend reversal. So let's see. But the chances are good that this might be it, based on, for example, looking here at the monthly, having a bull cross on the monthly, right? In the stochastic RSI, the regular RSI is not really oversold in any case. It's the first time since a long time that we are even in normal RSI territories. So far, it's also the first time, if you see here, that in all this time that we are pumping out of this wedge pattern, where you could even argue that this might be the retest, right? So it's going to be interesting how OMI behaves in October and November on a suspected pump, right? And our bias is bullish, right? For October, November, our bias is in general bullish. That does not mean that an altcoin season that brings everyone into profit territory is guaranteed. It does not mean that. It just says the likelihood from all that we see is pretty high that this is happening. Yeah. But anyways, guys, make sure to smash up the like button right now. Most important thing, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Notifications on so that you never miss out on videos and live streams. And wherever you are on the world, have a great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon. Enjoy your coffees. Have a good one, everyone. And I see you in the next video or live stream tomorrow at Crypto Morning Coffee.